Okay, so here's the team that I think we could see as well. And this is with a few little changes, which it's the only real other way I think Rennie can go. You've either got two options. The first one, which we've already seen, is keep Dubovai at six. The second option is to move him into the second row. And then that becomes then who is going to be your six. And it makes sense to be Simon Parker, right? So what I could see is sort of in a similar way that we saw um, Vi move into the locks into the second row in the second half. We might see him move into six in the second half. So the reason I think this is because Tupu Vi and Fabian Holland have big engines. They both play most of the time. They play for 80 minutes. So if you're going to start Tupu Vi in the second row, then chances are you're going to keep him on the pitch, right? So then you move him into six, you take off Parker, and then Patrick Tuipulotu comes in for a big boost of physicality. And what I like about this kind of a balance is you then have Tupu Vi outside on the flanks where he was causing havoc last weekend, but this time you have him out there at the end of the game when the All Blacks start to that's when normally the All Blacks fitness gets on top of players. They start really ramping it up. So to have him out there on the flanks at the back end of a game, I think could work very well against a tiring pack. So that's why I've gone with that. I think that's makes a lot of sense to me. I don't necessarily like Simon Parker in that team. I was thinking about maybe Peter Larkey. He did play at six against France, although I don't. It's a bit weird. I just don't feel right putting Larkey in the six jersey. Maybe you could move Luke Jacobson to six and Larkey to seven, which I did think about, and it would help the All Blacks at the breakdown, right? So that's another thing that we could see there too. Again, the back line stays very, very well the same. Although I did think about Morby. Morby had an absolute howler. That first tackle. Now he recovered well. He scored a try and he did all right, but he hasn't impacted that much. I've found in the first test. He hasn't looked great the last two outings we've seen from him, and that missed tackle was a shocker, an absolute shocker. We saw, was it earlier? Who was it against? Italy when Proctor just got run over by Menoncello, and we didn't see him the next game. And a part of me feels like Morby made a similar error there, and I don't know. Do we see him continuing the 11 jersey? I think so, but it wouldn't surprise me if we saw maybe Morby drop out. We see Carter move into the 11, and then you see Finney-Anganofo on the bench or something like that. As for the bench, Amua, Numia, Fletcher Neal stays the same. Obviously, I've spoken about Tuipulotu would come onto the bench to provide that impact with Vi switching to six. Peter Larkey's in there as well. Another way you could do this would be for Blackadder on the bench as well, but I don't know. It could be. Kyle Preston, Rico Ioane as with the other team, and then Fehi Finney-Anganofo. I just look at that Lions game. He didn't have a hell of a lot of chances, but he did look pretty dangerous on the ball. And he came off relatively early, and you could look at that in two ways. You could look at that as though he was getting taken off. They wanted ALB on there. They wanted to get some more experience on there. They were trying to chase the game. They were trying to, you could look at it in that way. But then you could also, if you were looking at it in that way, then why would they bring Jacob on and just fit him in somewhere when you already had Bowden Barrett and Richie Mwanga in that 15? So, I kind of look at that and I'm like, well, if they really were hell-bent on chasing that down, you wouldn't have brought Jacob on just for shits and giggles, Like, obviously, you want to give him game time, but if you're really serious about chasing that down, you want everyone playing in their natural position. So I found that a bit strange, and also to see Finney-Anganofo come off after 60 minutes. I maybe I'm reading into it too much, but maybe there is a chance for him in this All Blacks team this weekend, and maybe that fits in with the whole Morby being not favoured this week, or maybe it's just a rejiggle on the bench. If Rico Ioane comes in there and you feel like you've got enough cover at 12, which I've always said, like if you have Rico Ioane on the bench, you've got 13 covered with him. You've also got 13 covered with Quinn Tupaia. And then you've got 12 covered with Quinn Tupaia, and obviously Geordie's there. So I don't see the need for Anton Leonard-Brown. But yeah, I could definitely see this team getting a run as well. The only thing that would concern me in that first half would be, again, the breakdown. But you've got plenty of height in there for the line out still. And yeah, the change up in the second half would really, I think, be a pretty explosive bench move and a big kick on towards the back end of the game anyway.